This is my first video for my Bible study series, and I just wanted to give everybody a little introduction first. A little background of myself. I'm a stay-at-home mom and wife. I was raised with a Christian upbringing, and I was saved at 7 years old. I was really excited about having a relationship with God that I dove into His Word like crazy, and I studied it a lot, all the time. When I turned 10, my father died, and I started to hate God. My dad was everything to me, and when I lost him, I felt that part of me went with him. So as a teenager, I was your typical teenager, hanging with the wrong crowds, being rebellious towards my mother. I ended up pregnant at 18 with a guy who did not share my faith and didn't want his child. So being brought up to respect life, and that was something that life was sacred. I kept my baby despite the father's rejection, and I love that kid to this day. In my early 20s, I rebelled further towards God and ended up becoming a Wiccan. I attempted witchcraft, but never really went through with it. After a while, since both Christianity and Wicca appeared to be closely knit together, I started to identify myself as a Christian Wiccan. Well, that really didn't work out too well. This was my way to keep my identity as a Christian intact, so God wouldn't be angry with me, or so I thought, and for me to feel that I needed and deserved the freedom that Wicca offered. Well, in my late 20s, I had my second child, and at age 6, my son's father passed away. This made me even more angry at God because I personally felt the pain that my son was going through. And believe me, this was a horrible time for both of us. Though we split up, I still loved him, and I loved his son. Well, at the time, I suppose I had a vendetta against God and anyone who was a Christian or mentioned God to me. I hated him so much that even my mild-mannered mother couldn't mention God without me going into an angry tirade. I shoved God away more and more until I was such a wreck that I had no clue who I was anymore. Was I a Christian? Was I a Wiccan? Or was I just some messed up and angry woman? Well, fast forward a few years, and I fell further and further down the rabbit hole, so far that I didn't think I would return to reality. But God had other plans for me, and I'd been letting my mother take my kids to church for about a year when, out of the blue, my son decided he wanted to ask me a question. And he asked me how people were saved. Well, I was speechless, and my first reaction was to bristle and cock my non-existent feathers, as in, oh, I really don't want to talk about this, I don't want to go down this road, period. Well, I thought deep into my Christian upbringing anyways and told him how. And he was saved then and there in the kitchen while we were making dinner that night. So about 6 months later, I realized I needed to support my son, even if I wasn't too thrilled about the idea in the first place. Well, I started going back to church with him and my mother and my other child, and I watched proudly as my son was baptized. One of the best moments I'd ever witnessed. And it was so genuine. Well, that simple change in my son started to change me. And I started to go to church more often. And the church we attended was amazing. Absolutely amazing. The pastor was wonderful. The people were so loving and kind. And I'd been in churches where the people were abusive. They gossiped. It was horrible. And they did not make you feel at home. They did not make you feel like you were a child of God. And they certainly didn't feel like, it certainly didn't feel like they loved you very much at all. It was just something they did. Well, I hadn't been into church like that since I was a kid. So here I am now, and I've renounced Wicca. or any type of pagan belief for that matter, including New Age and yoga, and I'll get into that later, my life has changed. I'm not as angry as I used to be, because Jesus lives within me. And it's important for people to remember that when you give your heart to God and you let Jesus take control instead of trying to take control of yourself, you have better self-control. It's kind of hard to explain unless you actually accept God into your heart. And it's the most wonderful feeling on the planet, because then all the burdens and everything else just seems to drift away. And no, my life is not perfect. I still have problems. I have health problems. I have mental health problems. I have had a very rough life. But now that I have God and I'm allowing God to change me, I'm much, much happier than I used to be. It really is an amazing feeling when you realize the whole reason you were miserable was because you were fighting God every step of the way. But when a person gives their life over to God and let Him handle it, it's a totally different thing. I am so much happier. My kids are happier. My husband's happier. Even though my husband hasn't a born-again Christian yet, he still goes to church with us when we can. He reads the Bible. He prays. And it's good. It really is. And my whole family is very blessed. And I'm very lucky to have the family that I do. So in the words of Reverend Dave Hill in the movie, God's not dead, because He certainly is not dead. God is good. And on that note, hopefully in the next few days, we're going to start digging into June Hunt's Bible study series, starting with stress. Because, well, right now, stress is probably one of the biggest hurdles that we're all dealing with during this COVID crisis. So, hopefully, as we go through this, maybe we'll all be a little less stressed. So, I really hope that you guys enjoy my channel and that I can help you identify areas that you may not even know that you had or felt, and that there are a lot of things I will be able to relate to. And I welcome questions. I welcome comments. I won't be bullied, though. I want this to be a positive experience for everyone. I don't want negativity. That's not really going to help the situation. It's not going to help anybody. It's just going to make people miserable, make them fight, and it's not worth it. It really isn't. So, I definitely welcome your comments. Please do. Ask me questions. And if I have the immediate answer, I'll give you an answer. If I don't, and you are asking something that even I don't quite understand, let me know, because I will look it up, I will find the answer, and we can talk about it. So hopefully we'll see you in a couple days. Bye, guys.